Welcome to the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by the Funny Womacks and Friends. If you're looking to get more out of your Shenandoah Valley experience, then this is the podcast for you. You'll meet interesting people, musicians, and comedians that perform here and find out more about what you can do and see. Whether you live here or plan to visit, listen to explore what makes our unique slice of heaven. Now here's your host, Don Davis Womack.
Hello, Laughters. Today is Love, Laughter, and 25 years of marriage. What is the secret sauce? I'm Don Davis Womack.
And I am Chris Womack.
And we are the Funny Womacks.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. In today's special Valentine's episode, we're peeling back the curtain and giving you some behind-the-scenes look at our own 25-year relationship. It's been amazing, and also it's had its ups and downs.
That's right.
From surviving to now thriving in comedy and life together, we're sharing a 10,000-foot view of our journey, hoping that it will be an inspiration and support and encouragement to couples out there.
Yeah.
And we're going to not sugarcoat it and also have some fun with it.
That's right.
So it'll come with a bit of side of humor. And please do stick around for the fun twist at the end where we give our marriage a test by doing a little bit of a spoof on the Newlywed Game.
All right. Let's go. Back to our roots.
Back to it. I know we can talk about that too.
Yeah.
But before we get started today, I also have some very exciting news. If you need something to listen to besides me and our guests between episodes, how about a free audio book? Big thanks to Audible for supporting this show. Just hit the link in the show notes and get your free audio book.
That's awesome. What a scrappy little company. I hope they can make it someday. I'm glad that you're giving them a platform. Maybe it'll expand from here.
Yeah, I believe they are the engine that could and did and can.
Come on, Audible. You can do it. We all believe in you.
I actually like Audible a lot. So
I love Audible. Audible
very
rocks. What's not to like about Audible?
What's not to like about that? But let's get into it. All right, Chris.
Done.
What's one thing that surprised you the most about being married for 25 years?
Okay. Just going to peel off the mask right out of the chute.
Oh, my goodness.
I am blown away by... Along our journey, I've been blown away by how selfish I was going into our marriage and how much work I had to do in that area. Mm-hmm. That's been the biggest surprise. I would have probably told you 25 years ago, like, oh, I got my struggles, but I'm working on it. And no. Yeah.
I can see how, given our story, that was.
Yeah.
I'd say for me, we had a marital crisis about 4 years ago. Not even sure we were going to make it, to be honest with you, Laughers. And we did, thankfully, because we got a lot of help.
Yeah.
And I don't know what we would do without that. And part of that help was me understanding that I had a lack of boundaries. So that is not a great combination.
No, it's not.
Hey. A selfish person with someone without boundaries.
What could go wrong?
So that is an area that I continue to grow in, but have grown considerably because of this.
Yeah, we're pretty baller that we made it 25 years with that dynamic. Okay,
see,
look at us.
We're just out here
giving,
right? And we're just out here giving you hope, because if you're in a relationship, a give and take relationship, I understand we talked about him being selfish, but this is Chris 2.0 emerging over here. So if you're in a relationship that's two-way, I guess is a better way to say it, where both people are in it to work on it, then you've got a lot of healing that you can do together.
That's key.
It truly is.
That's the best thing, I think. Yeah.
Yes. So if you're not in an abusive relationship or something serious where you do need to leave, or at least leave and set boundaries and then see what happens, otherwise, there's a lot that you can do to grow as an individual.
Yeah.
And then together
as a couple. That's what you can control.
Yeah. You got to control. That's another thing.
That's what you can control. You can't control whether your spouse or partner wants to grow, wants to heal, wants to develop, but you can control whether you do, and maybe it gets contagious. There you go.
That's true. And that's been, I think, a big blessing for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no, neither one of us wanted the marital crisis, I think, if we're honest with ourselves.
I could be dishonest with myself and still tell you I did not want that marital. Yeah. It's that powerful. I can't. Yeah.
But I also would say we wouldn't trade the growth as individuals
That's right.
and as a couple as
true.
a result of it.
That's true. Yeah.
And so the experts out there that know a whole lot more about therapy and have helped us would call that post-traumatic growth.
Cool. All right.
So that's a great thing to look up. If you're in the middle of the crisis, you're probably feeling like it will always be like this and you will never feel good again.
Mm-hmm.
And when I listened to people early on, when they would say that to me on a podcast or a video I was watching or some of the therapists, I thought they were absolutely insane, to be honest with you, because it did feel like I was going to feel like that the rest of my life. And it's not true.
No, it's not at all. But you don't know until you. It's just like working out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're training to run a marathon, well, of course you can't run a marathon right now.
Right.
So don't think about, well, I could never run a marathon. Correct. So, but you can 6 months from now.
Yeah. With some training
Whatever,
and put the work,
whatever
put
it
the
is.
work
Whatever
in.
it is. There it is. Yeah.
If you do the work, so many amazing things can happen.
Yeah.
And we're faith-based, so for us, God can really work
Yeah.
in your relationship. And if you are not and have a different higher power, then lean on that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you could describe our marriage in 3 words, what would they be?
Humor.
Yes.
Growth. And I'm going to say integrity.
Oh, wow.
Which is something I can say now.
Correct.
I'm speaking
Chris 1.0.
in 2025
Yeah.
that I feel like, and I'm defining integrity for those of you who don't know, because people just, there's a connotation with integrity that I think differs across individuals. But my definition of integrity is a lot of us know what the right thing to do is. And a lot of us do it in front of other people because we, want to look like we're good people who do the right thing.
And we
all do
liked.
that. There's nothing,
Yeah.
that's not me coming at anybody. I do that too.
Right.
But integrity is doing the right thing when no one's watching.
Yes.
And so I think that that's been an area where we both, but me most of all, have needed to grow over the last 4 years. And now I think it's a foundational part of us.
And I would also share that you can have great integrity in parts of your life.
Yeah.
And then struggle with that in your closest relationships.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
Because I would think that people seeing this for the first time that know you professionally, many of them would be surprised that we had a marital crisis at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and there's nothing but integrity in your 30 plus year career and education.
And other parts of my life. Yeah.
And other parts of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll work out when no one's watching. You know what I mean? That's all, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And I like the results when he comes home.
All right.
Let me give 3 words for what do you?
Yeah, you do.
Let me do 3 words. Okay.
You go. And then I'm going to ask the next question, right?
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I would say I agree with humor. In fact, that when we met, we were working at the University of Maryland in the Rec Center at the VA hospital. And we connected immediately on a sense of humor. I'll never forget that it was my first day, and I was getting the tour from a fellow coworker where everything was and meeting people. And Lynn took me into the exercise testing room, and you were doing what is PAD testing, and you were doing an ankle pressure or something. What was that you were doing?
I think if it was that, I was doing an ankle brachial index.
There you go.
We're not going to break that down for you. That's a whole nother podcast.
Don't worry about
That'll be the most boring episode ever if we do one on that. So anyway.
But we had met, and you were kind to me, and I was just, what was I saying? I said, my spouse at that time was living in West Virginia, and this was Maryland, and you had said, oh, well, my spouse is in Virginia. Maybe we should start a group.
Support group. Yeah.
A support group.
Yeah.
And that made me laugh. And we became friends first.
Yeah, obviously. Given what you just said. Yeah.
That wasn't the integrity problem back then.
No.
Both of those marriages were already falling apart.
Yeah. And then did.
And then
we took friendship to
a next level.
Yeah.
After that. Yeah. So I would say humor, and then also obviously resilience.
Oh, yeah. Very good one. Good one.
For sure. And also exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
thanks to you, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you.
If it was me, we'd be exciting would be, what do we binge next?
I know I get them into all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But we had a wonderful 10-year journey when our son was getting recruited all over the country to play football, and then
played it
at UNC, Chapel Hill, and then into the pros. That was a very exciting chapter. We had an exciting chapter before that when he was in high school, and we started a service organization for high school athletes, and
cool
did some trips to serve Hurricane Katrina victims, and that came with a lot of memories. And now with this comedy journey together.
Yeah, that's nothing but exciting.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he started comedy a few months after the marital crisis happened.
As we were picking up the pieces and that.
Yes. So he decided to challenge himself to do something that he had always wanted to do and had threatened for a couple of years prior to that he was going to do it and never did. And that was part of your stepping out of your comfort zone.
That's right.
And step in more into your own power.
That's right.
Yeah. And he's hilarious. So it's a lot of fun. And it was quite a journey, I would say, and has been, to be going through this healing journey together.
Painful stuff and
then stepping out on stage and making people laugh. But yet it also was a place where we connected a lot, and it was a reprieve and a relief for us.
Yeah. And it's, laughter. When you're in a painful spot, laughter's awesome. It's water to a plant.
Yeah. And even early on, we'd have these cycles. We'd do shows on the weekend, and I'd be very excited and into that. And then Monday morning, what was that like for you,
I could
Chris?
just count on her hating my guts Monday. And I would be thinking the entire weekend, like, wow, we've really gotten to another level. She is just, we're communicating, we're cooperating. She is just, boy, we're best friends. And then Monday would be like, what do you want?
I was processing.
It's funny now.
It's funny now.
Yeah, it's funny now.
It is funny now. But we'll get. What would you say is something we used to argue about that we now laugh at? Speaking of which, it was funny. It's funny now, but
we laugh at the fact that we used to argue about it, or the topic is something that we argue about, but the topic is funny now. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Pick one.
Okay. This is just top of mind. Finances. We used to argue about finances all the time. I mean, just even the concept of talking about finances. You wanted to, I did not want to, and I get all grumpy and surly, and we'd argue about that. And now that's something that we talk about all the time, and actually with excitement and some joy. I don't know that we use a lot of humor in it, but I don't know. We're smiling about it. We're laughing about how we used to be.
I don't know about that. We met with Dusty Dean from Dean Wealth Management.
And we laughed. Yeah, okay, good. Shout out to Dusty. Go see him.
Yeah.
Go see him for all your wealth management needs. That is a free plug, Dusty. Because you have done right by us so well.
Right, and he didn't pay us to say that.
No, he didn't. Go see him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think a lot of times with arguing over finances, first of all, I think that's very common with couples.
It's I heard it's like the number one thing that couples argue about, or at least it's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes sense from the healing journey and being on, working with therapists and all of that, we come from different family systems. So when a couple comes together, they were raised from two different families, which is two different family systems. And there could be very different messages about money, or they could be the same messages about money, but the way that we individually internalize what that means for us and our lives, that's, I think, where the disconnect or the arguing can stem from.
Yeah, sure.
So
yeah, it's fraught with landmines.
yeah. But I think what we have also learned, which helps us get more on the same page about finances, is learning to have that, give each other space to have our feelings and let each other have our feelings.
Boy.
We just went through something right before this podcast.
In every part of our life has been massive. Yeah. I was, in short, I was very, very uncomfortable with negative emotion at all if it wasn't mine. So I wasn't giving Dawn room to be just sad or tired or angry, or if it didn't, I would interpret it automatically as some problem she had with me. I couldn't take it, and I wouldn't allow her to read a freaking human being. So
and I remember we were just talking about that the other day.
Yeah.
About how I would tell you, it's like, I am allowed to be mad, Chris. I am a human being.
That's debatable, but I just kind of threw in the towel and said, okay. Whatever.
Right? And we just, before this podcast, we said we'd pull back the curtain and not sugarcoat this. So I had done a podcast, and the autofocus feature it had a little bit of issue on the episode. It was a great episode, but it made me want to make sure that wasn't going to happen again for our episode today. And so I'm telling Chris about that, and he vented about what he thought about that.
I did.
What was great about going through this healing journey and growing as an individual, I was able to just not take that personally and understand that he just needed to vent. He just needed to just hear, have the frustrations be heard and not take it personally. So I gave space for that. And then I asked him, I was like, I actually need space to vent too. He said, all right, go. And I did the venting as well. And after it was out, we both looked at each other. I'm telling you, laughers, 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years ago, anytime before that, for sure, this would be World War III. And we probably wouldn't talk for days.
There was no such thing as us yelling and not yelling at each other.
Right.
If we're yelling, it's at each other. What are you talking about? There's Dawn independent yelling.
And we would think and take it personally as if we were
100%.
As if our partner was attacking our self-worth, and really all that they were wanting to do is to be seen and heard. Yeah.
And I would add that one thing, we were both venting about essentially the same thing. So we were on the same team and agreeing.
Yeah.
So it's very funny to think how many fights did we have in the past that we're actually agreeing on the whole topic going into it. Like, well, I agree with you, but here's what I think of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody would have stormed off. There would have been silence for a while. I don't know what would have happened for dinner. Lots of things.
Lots of silent chewing.
We've come a long way, but we're still figuring it out, to be honest with you.
She's got a long way to go.
You see what I'm dealing with here?
All right.
Anyway, when did we realize we were really in it for the long haul? For me, that definitely was when the marital crisis happened.
Sure.
Because I did not even know if I was going to stay.
Yeah, right. Understandably so. And I didn't know if you would either. And so I got to say, again, this wasn't 100% airtight confidence, but somewhere between 6 months to a year, into recovering ourselves as individuals and as a couple, I started getting some confidence, and just realized we're still not out of the woods at all, but we are both working on ourselves and on our marriage And if you do that, a lot of good things can happen. You don't even know what it's going to look like, but you know it's going to be better than this day. You know, and so that's about for me.
Yeah. I think a couple of key things that really helped me during that time, other than my faith, of course, and the therapists, because I had so many of them, I called them Heal Team 6.
That's a joke. If you come to a f-wahf show, you can see that joke set up and delivered in front of a live audience.
But they were super,
although it's true.
They were super helpful. And I call my main therapist Boss Babe. If you've followed the podcast at all, you know about Boss Babe. But Boss Babe really helped me early on. Just take it one day at a time, one moment at a time. One day at a time, one moment at a time.
Which is the best way to live anyway, honestly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Therapy
also,
or not, growth or not. I mean, yeah.
But also I would say that this is a testament, and it probably will choke me up talking about it. I wasn't planning on it, but we love our son, and he's amazing. And he got the 10,000 foot view when the marital crisis happened. And his encouragement, quite frankly, is another reason why I hung in there, just to see what would happen. And so that's to say, for those families out there, if there's something there, your kids are worth it, and your kids have a vested interest in seeing it work out. And he supported me. He's like, Mom, I understand. Whatever you want to do it. I just want to say, for whatever it's worth, that if Chris says he's going to do something, I believe he's going to do it. And so I'll be there for you no matter what. But if you want to know what I think, or you want to know what my opinion is, I believe in him.
I know. She told me that. That just always chokes me up every time she says that, because it meant so much. I mean, as you parents out there can imagine, that means so much. At your lowest point, your kid still believes in your abilities to get right.
And for us, though, this is a stepchild situation for Chris.
Yep.
So it isn't like, for us, it's not a biological reason to keep the whole family unit together. But we got married when he was 6, and we raised him. And to you, I mean, I might be speaking for you, but to you, we don't have children of our own. But to you, he's like a son to you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine feeling any closer to a biological son.
And so for us, it's just, Landon will say, that's my son's name. He will say, family is more than blood. And we know we have a lot of blended families out there, and those blended families could be going through marital crises too. So I just want to tell you, whatever your case is, just remember you're not alone. And your kids are, rooting for you. And if there's anything in there to be saved, they're amazing. There's just a lot of help out there, one day at a time.
That's right.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about next?
Do
the next one.
Okay. How has our relationship evolved since we started doing comedy together?
Ooh, how has it evolved? This has been an interesting journey because I started stand up to face my fears of doing it. It was supposed to be a bucket list situation. And then I took classes, graduation showcase. Somebody's in the showcase, sees me, comes up to me after the show and says, "You are hilarious. I'm producing a show. I want to put you on it and I'll pay you." Get paid for comedy. And it just took a class. That's crazy. I should check this out. And now here we are. I started producing shows in our area in the Shenandoah Valley in 2018. Then we had that marital crisis in 2021. So for the first 3 years, I was doing stand-up by myself, and Chris was coming to the shows and very much panicked, more than I was when I did. Go up there.
I did.
He was
so
more nervous than I was.
Yeah.
So then after I was doing it for years, when you started threatening to do it for 2 years and hadn't yet.
Right.
And then you started doing it on your own. And that was, I think, the beginning of doing our comedy journey together, because you said, I really am going to do this. And I said, yeah, right. Well, will you help me? And I said, I will help you, but are you going to do it? And he said, yes, I want to do it. I said, you know what? I'll help you, and let's see.
Yeah, that was just for one open mic set at a local brewery.
Yeah.
So then I thought that I was going to do that, check it off the list, and be done.
Yeah.
You know, so she helped me specifically with that, you know.
Right. But then he did such a great job. I mean, there were venue partners we've done shows for that had come to that open mic just for fun to hang out. And they knew Chris because of the work we had done together. So they were, what? He does comedy too? And he did a really great job. Those venue partners came up to Chris afterwards and to me and said, he's hilarious. You do another show with us, so we want him on there.
Yeah.
And when they said that, I was like, I do produce shows. He is funny. What if this could be something we can do together during this difficult time?
Yeah.
And also you could contribute to what we were doing.
Yeah.
So I told him, he was, I think, going out for a run or a walk or something. What were you doing?
I was in the middle of a run around our neighborhood, and this was the dark times for us. This was eye of the storm. And I
can't believe I'm laughing about it now.
Walking, and she had, every time she saw me back then, she'd have this scowl.
I think I have lines today because of it,
probably.
honestly.
And she's a smiley person, so that shows you where things were. And she had that scowl when she saw me approaching because she was out for a walk and she had her headphones in. I saw her like click her headphones off, you know, like she wanted to tell me something. I was like, oh, is nothing sacred? I can't go for a run and not, you know.
He was totally bracing himself.
Yeah, I was bracing myself, and she just looked at me deadpan because she was not like excited or anything. She was just like, hey, if you promise to do that same 5-minute set, you know, would you be okay me putting you on the next show? And I was like, yeah. And the rest is history.
Yeah. So you did that. We did the solo sets. We definitely still do those. But then we started doing duo sets.
Not long ago.
We did give one attempt
I do
early.
not count that. And you, in fairness, you're a producer. Look back on that. That was not fair, responsible, anything. I was not even 3 months into comedy.
Not a good decision.
And we were already, you know, at this one show that was a bit challenging. And she goes, yeah, let's, the headliner, you know, had just said, hey, maybe someday you guys can do a set together. So she was like, oh, let's give them a surprise and go up there together. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so sure enough, it went about as badly as anyone would ever think in those scenarios.
It was not good. Thankfully, it was short.
The more I'm thinking about that, that was a terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. That's no way that's going to work. Anyway,
you know what?
You're a great producer, though.
Thank you very much.
That's the only mistake you've ever made. So
yeah. I don't know about that. But the one thing I have learned in the healing journey, too, is, you know, mistakes do get made, and rather than dwell on them, you can learn from them. Yeah. But big shout out to who that was, so he can remember how far we've come as we keep going. So that was Joel Byers.
Yeah.
Joel Byers Comedy. He's a phenomenal person, man, and comic. Just became a dad. And I just want to shout out before you add, if you are interested in comedy or are a comic or doing open mics or want to do an open mic, he's got an awesome podcast called Hot Breath, and you can find it on YouTube easy enough, and you can look them up. So highly recommend.
That first attempt at a co-set was so bad that Joel came up after us, and I'll never forget it. He started his set with, well, thank you for whatever that was.
I told you we promised we would peel the curtain back.
Which
so
is
here you
a
go.
funny memory now.
I know.
Yeah.
He should see us now.
No, so yeah, absolutely.
We'll bring him back.
Absolutely.
And then he can. Because I think we did bring them back, but those were for solo sets. Yeah. So we'll have to check that out. How would you say our relation? Oh, I wanted to add to that. So I think in the process of just you starting comedy and doing comedy and working together, we've had to, you know, producing the shows. There's a lot that goes into doing that, and then you're also performing in the show. We get there early and set up together, and we have to solve problems together. I think it's challenged us, but also helped us grow a lot.
Absolutely.
Individually and as a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The only thing I'd add to all the great stuff you shared is it's made us cooperate on something.
Yes.
That's in our own mutual interest.
Yes.
And really from the jump, you know, from the jump of our crisis, that's been there, and we've had to come together on something even when we didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, in the moment might not be the funnest thing, but it helped us get better. It helped us cooperate when we didn't feel like it, which is part of marriage.
Yeah.
And that was really good.
Yeah.
It's actually this piece of life where I appreciate that so much. It's something I get to do with you. Mm-hmm. I always say this, even though I probably shouldn't say it because I don't think it gets interpreted right. But I don't know how else to say it.
Okay.
I would not do stand-up comedy if it wasn't for you. And I don't mean that like you gave me my start, although that's true too. I mean, I would not do it. Like these shows that, I would do whatever shows I have on the books. It's like, okay, Dawn's not doing comedy anymore. I would say, okay, well, I will fulfill my commitments. And then I too will not do comedy anymore. And it sounds like you're making me do comedy or something. I don't mean it. It's that the value added by us working on it together is so great that it helps keep me going.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to say, see where it gets misinterpreted is I think people hear that and think
if I wasn't doing this anymore.
I don't like comedy, or I'm superficial when I pretend to be loving my time up there. I do love it, but it's a lot. And I get a lot of joy out of it, but that joy is so amplified because I'm doing it with you, and we do have to cooperate, and we do have to work as a team. That's such an integral piece. It would lose its shine if I didn't do it with you.
So what you're saying is it makes it special that we do it together.
Yes.
So and I would also say too to that, we are different people in terms of how we just are as persons, how we approach work and life, and that's really okay. That relationships are messy, and honestly, that's part of what makes it exciting to me is that we aren't the same. It also makes it frustrating at the same time, and both of those things can be true.
Right.
But for Chris, he's full-time professor at James Madison University, and he's incredible at what he does. His students love him. His, fellow coworkers love him. He really pours a lot of energy into that.
Yeah.
And when he pours energy to something, I think our son was on to something. He says he's going to do it. He's going to do it. I mean, you see that in your career in terms of what you've done. And then there's just so much energy left after that.
There you go. Perfect.
So things could look, we're moving toward retirement. We're not there yet. You could definitely be answering this question different.
I'm
when
sure
you're
I probably
retired.
would. Like in the summer when it looks like that,
Yeah.
I think, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. And I probably would. You know what? There we go. I'll amend my answer. I'd probably do it in the summers if you weren't doing it. Be like, oh, Dawn, come on with me. I'm doing a show in the summer. Hang the shingle out.
Because I will say, a few things really light you up. Definitely anything UNC football or baseball related totally lights you up.
Oh, see?
That does. It's your family lights you up. Spending time with your siblings, parents, in-laws, us, Landon, your friends, you're very close. That lights you up. Music lights you up.
Yeah.
And comedy lights you up.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And so I love seeing it. He's really, you're fun.
You are too.
When he's not frustrated. Marriage is definitely ups and downs. I think any relationship, to be fair, has its ups and downs.
Yeah.
There's a different feel to it when you're a couple and you're intimate, of course. But so without getting into a lot of details, what is the one thing you think that's helped us move from surviving mode to, I would say this is the beginning of thriving mode for us. When you say,
I would,
to be honest, we say we pull the curtain back. So I'm just going to be honest there too.
There are so many answers to that question. So I'm going to go with the overarching thing that you mentioned from the jump, which is just a commitment to growth. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of little answers, like humor is saved us at times and
saved us before the marital crisis
has been impactful. Your therapy has been impactful. Our faith has been, our Christian faith has been important to us in our healing. It all goes together, but all of that is under the umbrella commitment to growing as individuals and as a couple. And you don't know what's next on that journey until you're there.
That is really good. This is another great example of how, depending on who you are in the relationship and what the marital crisis is, inevitably each partner in that relationship is going to have a different point of view.
Yeah.
Or perspective. So I would say for us to even have a chance to move forward, the giving myself space to heal.
Yeah.
And also just recognizing, because of the help I got, and I really did a deep dive and did my own work and a lot of research. Nowhere did I read that you have a marital crisis and then it's okay the next day or the next week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a 3 to 5 year journey, specifically with what we're dealing with, is when you start getting out of surviving to thriving. So I would say, again, just land and holding space for us, and then me holding space for myself to give it time so that we would have a chance to maybe get here.
Yep. Yeah, that's good.
I don't know if, and that was a gamble too, if you think about that.
Of course.
Because, in our 50s, I'm going to wait, and then what? So that's a risk too.
And you can't control what the other person does, as I mentioned before.
And so then you learn how to listen to your partners or watch their actions versus listening to what they say.
Yeah. Listen, people are not, marriages with deep problems are not healed by one effective speech.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
Those things can be little pieces of your journey, but no.
Yeah. And then there's the whole matter of rebuilding trust, which is a lot of effort.
Yes.
I think on both sides, to be honest.
Absolutely.
It can be tough.
Yep.
So, what were you going to say?
I was just going to ask the next question, but because that was so good.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What was the hardest part of rebuilding after our marital crisis? You sort of alluded to some good things.
I did. The hardest part. I am going to share this. And again, from therapy and doing my own research, it wasn't something that I wasn't expecting to happen, but he was in a more, let's just be frank, a much more immature space at the time of the marital crisis emotionally than he is now. And to be fair, me too, but for different reasons.
Right.
So I knew to expect the immaturity, but to actually experience it while I'm holding space for some of the most utterly ridiculous things you would say. And I was told to expect them, but when that happened, it really didn't feel like it was helping. And I would remind myself, this takes time, and you've got some, regardless of what happens, you doing your own work, Dawn, talking to myself, is going to bear good fruit in the long run.
Yeah.
And whether this relationship, marriage survives or not, if I will do my own work and work on me, then I will become a better person so that I will be ready to and choose, if I end up in another relationship, I will choose a much healthier situation so I don't end up here again.
Yep. My answer is almost the same.
Really?
In a way, but from my own perspective on the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's so hard. I mean, listen, I'm not saying I was doing more than you or anything.
You did a lot, though, and you still do.
It's so hard when you are So, you know, there's awareness first, and then you work on what the problem you're aware of. And I was aware that I was very selfish, very emotionally immature. But, you know, doing that hard work as a couple involves some really challenging conversations, and you're upset, understandably so, a lot of the time. And, you know, being an emotional infant and having to do these hard conversations day after day after day was so tough and so exhausting. And it's the only area of life that I can think of that's like that. Like everything else, it's like, you know, and I always use the analogy of getting in shape because it's what it's what my field
Passion,
is,
yeah.
you know.
And your personal passion too.
Yeah, my personal passion. But it's just kind of like that. If you were training someone physically and they're trying to bench press over 300 pounds, you know, of course they can't do that right away. And of course you're going to work up to it, and you're going to look at things as they get to be challenging and go like, oh, let's try this. And, you know, be easy on yourself. We'll get there, blah, blah, blah. This is the opposite. It's like saying, I'm sorry, somehow you have to lift 300 pounds today. You know, well, I can't do that. Yeah, I know. I don't know what to tell you. Get down. You know, it's going to squish you like a bug. And then we're going to come in tomorrow and we're going to squish you like a bug again. And then we're going to come in the next day. And, you know, it really is. Now, if we have a tough conversation, to your example about before when we were both upset and frustrated about something that didn't have anything to do with each other, I can receive you having heightened emotions just fine. I'm not perfect at it, but
we're not taking it personally.
Yeah.
I know.
And even if you are upset with me, I'm able to sit down, listen to you, be less defensive, you know, apologize if I need to apologize, or
empathetic now, or explain
if I just feel like I didn't do anything wrong, but it's a miscommunication, and let's talk about it. You know, whatever's necessary. I'm able to I'm a lot better. I'm not perfect, but a lot better at engaging in that. I could have used this back then. You know, now our disagreements take like 15 minutes instead of hours, you know.
Right.
And that is a wild thing
about
going through something like that.
Yeah.
Is if you have a partner that is very emotionally immature and is just getting their sea legs in terms of being able to listen to people and empathize and communicate and get their eyes off themselves. Oh my gosh. It's not like, well, let's try a 15-minute conversation and work our way up from there. You know, and understandably so. You're not going to be sitting there, nor should you be like, that was really good. I'll stop now. And we'll do 20 minutes next week. You know.
No.
Yeah. No. You know.
No.
Anyway.
But you learn a lot too. Again, this is where getting support and help is so key. As you know, you need to do your research. Fire therapists that aren't working for you and your situation. They're okay. I promise you that happens all the time. You just need to find the person that's a fit for you, has the skill set specific to your needs and the accreditation specific to your needs. And then they can do so much, including, you know, they call those marathon sessions, by the way.
Right.
So when you're marathoning, you learn when you're working with people that help you that you can set up code words or ways to take a break from the marathoning and then revisit it later. Now, why are you laughing?
Because that is exactly what I'm talking about. Nowadays, if something happened, and it never does anymore, but we were just on and on about something.
Oh my gosh.
I could tell you, hey, Dawn, I think we're marathoning. Let's take a breath.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and you'd be like, oh, thank you for pointing that out. I remember telling you that early on. And you were like, oh, is this uncomfortable for you? You're like,
what, am I hurting you?
Yeah.
Is this painful?
Oh. We're marathoning. Well, excuse me. Yeah. So you're right, but
I can't believe we're laughing
funny.
about
That's
that now.
Exactly what I mean. Like at the time when I'm just we're kind of like fragile. It's the hardest to do the healthy things.
It is.
Yeah.
But now look at us. I mean, it's not perfect again.
No.
I don't think any relationship will ever be all perfect.
not.
You know why? Because none of us are all perfect, and we're all a hot mess at the end of the day. So it is. There's a great book I'm reading right now. She's totally hot and popular everywhere right now. Mel Robbins has got a book out called the Let Them Theory. That's what it's called. And it's 2 parts. It's like, let them, it basically express themselves and have their feelings and emotions and thoughts and opinions. And then let me respond to that. I highly recommend. She didn't pay us either, by the way.
There you go.
But there's just been so many
free advertising.
there's so many resources out there. I think that's my point on that.
That's really good.
How was therapy, both as an individual and as a couple, for you changed the way we communicate? We kind of talked about that a little bit more.
First of all, I'll handle the easy part first. Couples therapy has not impacted us at all. Oh no, I take it back.
Beginning.
Captain Jeff was
Jeff.
couples therapy. I did not really count him as couples therapy, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that the couples therapist we went to after we saw this very special therapist early on named Captain Jeff. He was great, and he got us going in the right direction. He was, I believe, very much used to get us going in the right direction, to have the snowball roll down the hill on the right path. That was him. So yeah, I take it back. So key.
That's a nickname, by the way,
have a
Captain
good
Jeff.
fit with other couples therapists, and it didn't mean they were bad. It meant they weren't for us and are in the place we were at that time. That's all it meant. So that's not me saying, oh, well, we rolled across 2 duds. Just, didn't work. It wasn't right for us at that time. And then individual therapy, it covered all the weak spots I had, or it's helped me strengthen in the weak spots I had that made it very challenging early on. What we were talking about, listening, being empathetic, leaving space for you to have emotions,
Thank
all that
you.
stuff.
Finally.
Yeah. Shout out Tom.
Yeah. Captain Jeff was great. He's out in the Virginia Beach area. Yeah. I've called him Captain Jeff for so long, I don't even remember his last name.
I don't either off the top of my head right now. It was 4 years ago, so yeah.
I wanted to add to that I think for me, individual therapy was definitely huge. I'm not the only one who's been through a lot of, it begins with S and ends with T. I think he's a professor. It's a 4-letter word, Chris. It's a 4-letter word.
Stilt? Sorry.
Is that 5 letters?
Yeah.
Whatever. But I have complex PTSD because of multiple, really from child to collegiate, to the time I was in college, traumas of various kinds. And some are really horrific and very difficult and very challenging. And that I learned has a huge impact on your body. So I've recommended this a book before, but The Body Keeps Score.
Oh, it is very good.
It is a very valuable book.
I read it too.
Because it walks through what the big traumas, and they call them little T's, little traumas, affect your body and your mind and we believe your soul as well. And so you can start getting some understanding, which empowers you and encourages you to know that there's a reason that you're feeling this way. And there's a reason. For me, one of the side effects from the CPTSD is nightmares. And as you know, they were pretty horrific for a good...
I'd have to wake you up.
Yep. 2 decades of our marriage, and even early on. Like, I'm just, nightmare free, like in the last year?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, you'd hear me screaming in my sleep, and I'd had sleep paralysis and Freddy Krueger type nightmares, to be serious with you. Yeah. And those are not fun, and they do not make you want, you know that's facing you. It's a little bit of a Russian roulette. You don't know when you lay your head down on the pillow at night if it's going to be an okay night or if it's going to be a Freddy Krueger night or what's going to happen.
Right.
So then what that does is it affects your whole nervous system and your quality of sleep. So I, for a large part of my life, would be up till 2, 3 in the morning. I think knowing that, oh my gosh, I don't want to know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that has a huge impact on you. That's just one example, but just getting educated and then getting the help that I needed to start resolving those traumas and integrating them and healing from them has been truly transformative. And
Yep.
now it's a journey that I continue on because of how much better I feel.
Yeah.
And I think you have told me, or I know you have told me, how much better you physically feel from your own therapy journey as well, individually.
Yeah.
And the work that you've done.
Yeah, because I have, I don't have as much anxiety and stress about and fear about the future. I don't have as much regret and shame about the past. And when you drop those things, it's like, oh wow, who knew? I thought I was just a depressed person.
And that's the way you were going to be the rest of your life.
Chemical imbalance. And I know I am not here to discredit people actually having some sort of chemical imbalance. That's a thing. But I think perhaps, based on my experience, perhaps maybe some of us assume that that's our case when all we need to do is sort of drop a lot of junk that we don't need to drop. Fear, anxiety, and shame.
Yeah.
You learn how to lessen those, man. The anxiety between your ears goes way down. And then I think you'll really find out if you got a long-term problem or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've learned, and I see you have learned because we talk about it a lot. We really connect in the morning before work over a cup of coffee. And one of the things that we love about each other is we were friends first, and it showed up in our relationship the whole way through the ups and downs, through the marital crisis, and even now. It's a sweeter side now because we can connect on how we've grown, and we'll talk about how we feel and what a difference it makes in our lives, and how we operate so differently because of it. And early on, when I was working with Boss Babe, she would talk about, I'm going to help you work on new ways of being. And I think that that's so refreshing to think about. These things that you're feeling aren't abnormal. All humans feel shame and anxiety and fear.
Absolutely.
But where is that coming from?
Right.
And so what I'm getting at is a big takeaway and a big new way of being is raising self-awareness, getting more in tune with myself. And when those feelings come up, asking myself the questions like, what triggered that feeling?
Right.
What happened just before that?
Yep.
What was said just before that?
Yep.
Where did I feel like that as a child or earlier in my life?
Right.
Because one of the biggest things I learned from the Body Keeps Score and just a lot of work is our brains are still in a lot of ways very primitive. And so ancestrally, we would have to run for big animals and lots of other things just for survival. And so what we can do when we're not healed up or haven't integrated what's happened to us and processed it, then we can get into spaces that are very unhealthy and toxic for us because we're trying to protect ourselves. And we end up recreating unhealthy patterns in the attempt to protect ourselves.
Right.
So the way over, I keep saying this to people and it's really resonating with them, when you're going through challenges, is the way over is through. Versus ignoring it. It's just never going to go away.
No.
Every day you ignore it, it's just going to get to become a bigger problem.
That's right. Yeah.
And as someone who's been on the victim side of things from the trauma, you don't want to go because you think it's going to really hurt. and you don't want to visit it again because it really hurt the first time. And the interesting thing is, whatever has happened, as soon as you start dealing with it, and it's going to resolve faster than the time you've been dealing with all this pain and shame and fear and anxiety.
That's right.
So, yeah, that's my big thing on that.
That's a lot, yeah.
I know it is a lot. What would you give as advice to couples facing their own rough patch? I think I kind of
you did.
Gave some advice there. So what would be your advice in terms of working through it?
I'd say that a couple is a Venn diagram of two people coming together, right? You know, like if you don't know what that is, it's like one circle that overlaps with another circle. So those two circles have their parts that aren't overlapping. And that's the work. That's what we bring about ourselves to the table. And so number one, it's going to work best if both sides, as we've shared, are committed to just being on the journey of healing and growth. Just being on the journey is going to be good.
It's going to be huge.
And to that point, it's also recognizing, you know, Dawn's circle. There's parts that I overlap with, and we need to work on that. But there's parts of her circle that are her, and I can't control that. I can't control how she feels. I can't control when she gets up or eats or sleeps. I mean, you know, and if I did, if I did try to control it, that's actually going to be very unhealthy. Whatever I'm gaining from my perception of you doing what I want you to do, I'll have to do something really unhealthy to do that, and make something. So just acknowledging that, and then where we come together. So that's the individual work. That's all the stuff you shared. Get in therapy if you feel like you need it. Read books.
There are great podcasts out there
improve.
too.
Look at negative behaviors in your life and try to find ways of leaving those in the rearview mirror. Maybe it's just a commitment to stopping if it's not that big of a deal. Maybe it's a addiction recovery if it is. You know, it can be anything on that, but don't be ashamed of doing that. And if there is something deep-seated that you just can't shake, you know, then you're going to need help. I promise you. That help can be in the form of therapy. That help can be in the form of a support group. That can be in the form of a 12-step group. That can be in the form of, you know, a small group at your church. Whatever it is, you're going to need other people, and you're going to need other people who you can be honest with, and vice versa. And it doesn't pay to just pretend you're this great person and put on a superficial. It doesn't at all. You need to get in touch with the darkest parts of yourself and acknowledge that those are true, but also acknowledge I can take that honest knowledge and get better from here. And then, man, that opens up all sorts of things. So being healthy isn't just acting healthy. It's not a fake it till you make it kind of thing. And then do the same thing as a couple. Yeah. You know, and then take care of that in the same way. Take care of that little part where you overlap. How are we communicating? How are we relating to each other? Am I presenting things in a way that puts blame or burden on you? Am I trying to control you? Am I leaving room for you to be the person that you're growing into? You know, and that kind of thing. So, and that's loving. You know, that's just a loving response rather than a controlling response.
And I would add to that, I think a big thing for us is that we did a lot, and we can still run into this and fall into it, but we did a lot more all or none thinking before.
Oh gosh, that's been a huge thing.
This, and just learning and growing in that life is, as Boss Babe put it, all shades of gray.
Yeah.
And every day is grief and gratitude.
Yeah.
And that two things can be true at the same time.
Yep.
And and Mel Robbins talks about that in her book too. Yep. You can love a person you love can drive you absolutely crazy with the things that they do, and you can love them at the same time.
Yep.
So I would say that that's key.
That's right.
What's the best and worst part about doing comedy as a couple?
You mean a co-set?
Yes.
You mean specifically when we're up there together? So we are comics as individuals. We've actually done more of that than what we've entered into the last year-ish, which is doing a set of comedy as a couple.
As the Funny Womacks. Yeah.
The best part is there is a natural flow to that I've never experienced as an individual comic. I mean, it surprised me from the start.
Surprised
I am
me
not
too.
counting that one show when I was 3 months into comedy and you put me up there before Joel went on.
But now we have a story
But
that we can laugh about.
Exactly. But when we really started doing it and I could prepare, I think that I've been surprised from the start how well it goes. We're just on stage and we're sort of doing this.
Yeah.
And it just happens. We don't need a script. We don't need okay, when I pause for 2 seconds, then you say this. And we can just riff off each other so well.
Yeah.
Just shockingly well. That's so much fun.
It really
I get a
is.
big high off of that.
We know what bits we want to do, but then we have this chemistry in between it.
We
it's
really do.
Fun.
It also is easier technically as a comic in ways. I mean, it's a trade-off. But in the technical sense of comedy, sometimes you can be on a roll with your set and you have a set list sometimes that you want to do certain bits in a certain order, and you can get caught up in something or be going on a tangent or on a riff and then forget like, oh, what was I going to do next? And that leads to silence and dead air. And that's not good. People don't typically laugh at silence. So
that's why you have hip pocket
exactly.
fillers. Yeah.
So there's ways of dealing with that, but you never have that problem, at least with us when we're doing a co-set, because while you're going, I can kind of like be engaged, but at the same time, my head resetting and going, oh yeah, that's right, I was going to do that joke
Same
next.
Here.
So that's a strength. That's kind of cool. I feel like a lot of times there's a lot less pre-show focus on like, oh, wow, this is what we're doing. You know, this is our set list that I have to have in my brain, because I think we know it and we work on it. And then it's like, now the challenging part.
There is
you
a
and I
challenging
are
part.
different people, as you said. We prepare differently.
Very
and
much.
not surprisingly, we are very different comics. So I write differently than you.
Yeah.
I organize my material different than
Yes.
you. I prepare differently than you. And now all of a sudden we got to come together and do a co-set. And we also, just an example, I don't have a lot of quick, hard-hitting one-liner jokes that don't take that much time. But sometimes when it's a co-set, you need that to sort of equally distribute our time and what we're doing. And I don't have a lot of that. And trying to insert the little that I have can be frustrating, because it's easy for me to sit in front of my laptop and make up a set for the show that I'm personally doing next as an individual comic. It's like, oh, that would flow real great with that, and that would flow real great with that. And then when you introduce another person, it's like, oh, I've got this great flow here. It's like, well, I wanted to do my joke on dinosaurs. It's like, well, I don't have anything on dinosaurs. What the heck is wrong with you? You know,
or something that complements
whatever it is. And so it's a real situation and a real extra variable to go like, well, yeah, those are some of my best jokes, but they have nothing to do with what you might be wanting to do on that night, or vice versa. They don't have to, but it has to sync up
some way.
Yeah. And so it's So there's trade-offs. It's grief and gratitude, as you like to say.
It is. And you were just mentioning this, I think it was either this morning or yesterday, about how we're further ahead in our comedic journeys as individuals, as we're doing the duo act is newer. Right. So it reminds us of, earlier stages in our solo journeys where we are right now.
That's right.
And
that's not always fun.
Challenges.
Yeah. It's like, oh, good. I'm not feeling enough challenges. Let's go back and pretend we're beginning comedy. Yeah.
But it also is, we've done, I don't even know how many we've done now, but we get compliments. People just like to see it.
We're better. We're more natural as a couple. The learning curve is shorter as a couple, I think, than it has been for us as individual comics.
Yeah.
So you're right. That's a good point.
And it can be very therapeutic for you couples that are just coupling, even when everything's going great or when things are challenging, because we do rag on each other quite a bit during our goes.
Yeah, we do. Watch there be a rash of couples showing up to open mics now. It's like, what was their issue? Oh, they're working on something in their marriage. They're not so much interested in being comics. They just want to work on their marriage.
It is fun, though, to just point out those differences between ourselves and our personalities.
It is, and people relate to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and also just the husband and wife dynamic.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of jokes about that as well. And it's a lot of fun. So we enjoy that. Who is funnier? Let's be honest. We just actually went to FedEx. Shout out to our Harrisonburg FedEx and Cody that works there. I've built quite a relationship with them doing
we are
all
up to
these
like
shows.
5 free promos on this show. We need some advertising, people.
Yeah, that's right.
We're
You're
not going to keep
interested?
giving this away. Freaking FedEx, like they need our support.
Right. But anyway, we walked in there to get some flyers printed for Uncorked Laughter that's coming up at Bricks and Calms Vineyards on March the 8th. And that's a comedy and wine class experience. That's absolutely fabulous. But anyway, we're getting it printed. And he said, who's funnier, to be honest? And I was like, he's funnier. And you said she's funnier. And he had us do rock, paper, scissors to determine.
She won.
And I won.
So solved.
So I guess that's how it
Can't dispute rock,
I got to
paper,
go
scissors.
with who's funnier, because I think you're hilarious.
I think you're hilarious. Who knows? I think rating comics gets weird.
It's very subjective too, don't you think?
You can do it. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, Dave Chappelle is funnier than us. You know, just as an extreme example, of course, and even some of our headliners, you know, it's like, of course, they're funnier than us. They
They're
get
also
more laughs.
further ahead
But then when you get within the same sort of category of comic, that's really hard to parse out. Like comedy competition. I've won a comedy competition before. Do I think I was the best comic in that lineup? I don't necessarily think so. I loved winning it, but I don't think it proved that I was better at stand-up than any of those comics. So that's a really hard question. Let me say something. I think that you are better at developing a premise. She will take anything from everyday life and is fearless about going, wait a minute, we laughed at that. I can make that into a joke. I'm like, you can't make that into a joke.
And I do.
And she does. I very much appreciate that. And I'm blown away by that. And I'm not nearly as good at that as you are. And that's a real big skill in this art form. I think I'm quicker off the cuff than you, you know, just crowd work and adding things and changing a set on the fly.
Although I'm looking forward to keep healing from, the PTSD.
Yeah, I think you're going to be.
Because it's starting to show up more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we are very different comics. And I think that who is funnier, I bet you if you polled our audience, it would trend very differently and it would depend on who you're asking.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know what I mean?
I think so too.
So.
Yeah. And maybe even a bit gender wise too, that way.
Yes. I think the ladies love some of your stuff and they identify a lot with it. I'm painting with a broad brush here.
It is very broad.
But I mean,
yeah.
Some of my stuff I know has even appealed to some younger men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So who knows? I think we got a demographic answer to that question.
And you can come and see for yourself.
That's right. You got to do it.
Come a couple of times because it might go back and forth.
That's right. That's right.
If our marriage were a comedy special, what would it be called? That is such a great question.
Let's get through this.
I almost don't want to come up with another name. That's hilarious.
Can't you just see a comedy special called "Let's Get Through This"?
Maybe
That's
when we
a
do
really good comedy special.
Maybe
name.
when we do our first comedy special as a couple,
we gotta
have to call it
that.
Let's do this. If you guys think that's what we should call it when we do it, just say so in the comments.
Comment.
That's hilarious.
That's really good.
I'm just going to leave it at that because it was so good. What's the biggest difference between our comedic styles?
We both like to tell stories, so there's a similarity. You love to bring everyone in. If there is such a thing as inclusive comedy, you do it.
I do it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I mean that in such a great sense.
Thank
You're
you.
like, oh, this is a joyful experience. I'd hate to leave anyone out. Everybody come along. Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Are we all here? Good. Let's all have
Everybody
a laugh.
on the same page?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more, not a little, I am more cynical,
Very
more
much.
jaded.
Yes.
So much so when we write together and we bounce off jokes and premises off of each other, most of the time, well, I value your feedback all of the time. There are certain jokes
here.
like the other night
Yeah.
where I really like the joke
Yeah.
and you're not reacting at all.
Yeah.
Because it's mean. And I'm like, that might kill. I don't know.
I
You
tell
know what
him
I
you
mean?
should do it. I'm just, it's subjective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So whenever I get a little darker or a little more cynical, or I sort of call out a group of people, or, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm sure you're going to get laughs with it. But
And he does a lot.
And,
Yeah.
so we are, I'm a bit, I listen to the devil on the shoulder a little bit more than you do. Like,
Doesn't that track though, after everything you've just
I
heard
listen
today?
to the devil on the shoulder going like, do it, they'll laugh. No, that word's fine now. Go ahead and use it. Again, I'm not a blue comic by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah.
You push it a bit though.
Yeah.
But I agree with that. And I think our stage presence is complementary,
Yes, it is.
but it also is different.
Yes, it is. And I've had to learn that. There's another challenge in our.
Yeah.
I have just learned to be close to you
Yeah.
while we're doing a co-set because I walk all over the bleeping place.
I know.
And also, honestly, this is residual. I mean, I am less selfish, but I still love me some me. And so
We all have our stuff. It's
I
okay.
realized if I had to be honest,
Yeah.
when Dawn kept saying, hey, you keep on walking in front of me when you're doing your part of the set. I realized, at least part of that is me going like, hey, Chris time. Everybody look at the guy over here. I'm about to say something funny, instead of like, hey, you're up here as a team. So be a freaking team player, dude. And so when I realized that last time we did a co-set, and hopefully this week when we're doing several of them.
Yeah. Because it's Valentine,
Yeah,
so we're getting
yeah.
booked as a duo a lot this week. Except for
Saturday.
Saturday, you're doing one by yourself Saturday.
Right. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's that's so funny, laughers, because I want to work on putting out more clips, just on our social media and on this YouTube channel. And I remember for Christmas or something, I was trying to cut one, and I was getting so frustrated because it was a duo set, and then he would be on, the camera's in one place, and because of the way he walks all over the place, he kept walking off camera, and I was like on the dining room table, I'm going, I can't even use this because you're not in the frame. But we're just out here giving you hope. We're growing in that too. I mean, I got things.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, aren't we all? So I think that's pretty amazing. Now we're to the fun and games part as we close this up here. This is a little bit spoof off the Newlywed Game, so we'll see how it goes.
Yep.
A few questions here. Who said I love you first? I was trying to remember. Who said I love
did.
you? You did.
I'm almost positive. I don't remember exactly when I did it, but I remember around when I did it. I did it sometime like around Christmas time.
Oh, yes.
And then in our little secret phone conversations when I traveled to Texas to visit my grandparents, you would, when I would sneak away to call you for like 2 hours, fooling nobody, you were, I remember it was so new and you were like, I love you. So, are we alternating these?
Yeah, let's do. You do the next one.
What's my biggest pet peeve about you?
Oh boy, dishes in the sink.
Yeah. Although, thank you so much. You've gotten better.
See,
I literally
we can
come
all
home
grow.
now. Sometimes I'm like, there's no dishes in the sink. That's incredible. So you're growing, and I appreciate it. And could I guess yours?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to say 2 because I think it's a tie.
All right.
Flexing my feet.
Oh my gosh, that drives me crazy.
When we're talking, sometimes
when he's relaxing. How are you relaxing?
I dorsiflex my feet.
If you're flexing your feet.
If you know what that movement is.
So it's like this.
And so, yeah, exactly. And so I tighten
like
up
a side, like this.
I tighten up my tibialis anterior for some reason. I'm not trying to do a workout, but there it is. And also I leave finger smudges on the refrigerator, which I tried to be better about that.
How he does that. He takes showers. He's a clean person. I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I'm like, duh.
Oh,
and then so when he gets on the sinks, dishes in the sink, I'm like, well, I'm dealing with the thumbprints on the refrigerator.
Yeah. But we're hearing each other better.
Yes, we are hearing each other. Oh, next one. If you can only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be? This is an interesting question for you because I would before have said pizza hands down.
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Oh, you're guessing for me. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. And you would have been right before, and you're right that you're not right anymore.
Right, because you've been going, another journey you've been on in the last few years is you used to be a big time runner and qualified for the Boston Marathon twice, did it once. Big time, many years of our relationship, you were doing that. Then a few years ago, you started getting into strength training again, which you did when you were in college here at JMU, but then went into the running and now you're back. And so I've watched your nutrition kind of evolve over the last few years.
That's right.
And now you're more low carb.
Yes.
So it's not that you won't ever eat a pizza, but I think your answer might be different. So now, what is it, steak?
Yeah, good job. Oh, can you hone in on what type of steak?
Ooh, that's a good question. Sirloin.
You're close. It's a New York strip.
I was going to say that first. I should have went with my gut.
Good, well-cooked New York strip. Woof. That's what's up. I'm going to guess for you.
Okay, guess for me.
Shrimp tacos.
Oh, for the rest.
You love you some shrimp tacos.
I do love me some shrimp tacos. That has got to be up there. One meal for the rest of my life, though.
Well, you don't want any one meal for the rest of your life.
Let's
it's sort of
be
a trick
honest.
question for her. Idea of good dinner is variety.
Yeah.
When she used to do the cooking, if she cooked something I really loved, I knew I would never see it again.
It's a big joke.
Yeah.
Even Landon makes fun of that now.
So I had a tough time honing in, but your go-to that I see you reorder more than anything is
I just did it.
Shrimp tacos.
At Capital L
and sweet and sour shrimp.
I love some sweet and sour shrimp, but I'm working on getting back in shape now. That's why we did the health and fitness series in January in my background. So I'm trying to lay off of the fried foods more these days, but I do love it. Swipping the sweet and sour shrimp.
Yeah.
What's my most, I wanted to ask you this when I was preparing, because I was, what do I say a lot? I kind of have an idea, but what's my most used phrase or word? If you've been following the podcast for a while, you know a few phrases that I say a lot. You can put that in the comments if you've noticed.
Oh, what am I trying to say here?
I don't know, and I'm a little scared.
Your phrase or word. You like to laugh after sentences or making a point or when you're excited. Is laughter a phrase or word? Of course not, but that's the main thing I got.
The main thing. If you're listening to podcasts a lot, because I listen to them to send it off to the editor, the audio, and look at the video, and I notice that I say awesome. I love it.
You do say awesome a lot.
I do say awesome a lot. I say I love that.
Yes, you do. Yeah. You don't as much, I don't think, in real life.
Interesting.
You say awesome a lot in real life.
Yeah.
So I'm going with awesome.
And apparently that's, I've been reading somewhere you're not supposed to say awesome as much anymore.
Why?
I don't know.
Who's that pissing off?
I don't know. So I think I'm going to just keep doing it because it's
good.
Me.
I think that's awesome. With a capital A.
What is your most phrase? The word or phrase you say most often? What are you laughing about?
What's the phrase I got from my students that you're like, what? Flex.
Oh.
You don't like it.
Laughers, that was driving me crazy. This was started last fall. It's getting to a reasonable amount now, but I would believe it was either last fall or last spring. I knew something had happened with the young people, the young college students, when he came home and started using flex in every possible way he could in every conversation. It was driving me insane.
Yeah. I am way far. Cool has left the building a long time ago, but I will say for my age, I probably keep up to date on the latest lingo better than my peers because I'm around young people all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I love young people.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
We're young at heart too.
Yeah.
I think. What's something small I do that makes you feel loved?
Okay, what's something small
That I do that makes you feel loved?
And
what do I do that's
Okay.
small that makes you feel loved?
so I'm not guessing what I do that makes you feel loved. Isn't that the Newlywed Game?
Okay, yeah.
Somebody's doing something small and the other person's feeling loved. I don't know where we're going with this, but it's going to be exciting. Okay. So something that I think that I do that makes you feel loved.
Yeah.
Gifts.
Yes.
I'm gonna just default to your love language, which is gifts. And when I do something a little bit, especially if you like it, even if it's tiny,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, you did that. And also tiny acts of service, like, especially if you think I ignored something that I usually do, like get you a cup of coffee, but I really did it. You're like, oh, you did, you remembered, you got me a cup of coffee. Yeah. So,
yeah, that's true. I think for him,
Remember, it's a PG-13 rated podcast.
what's wrong with you?
A lot of ways you can make me feel loved.
We made it 25 years, so something's going right. I would say that when I do an act of service that you normally take care of for us, and then I do it, that makes you feel loved.
Very.
So,
Yeah.
you know, for example, the dishes, there aren't as many dishes in the sink, but I just had a little bit more time, and I knew your day was crazy, and we had something going on that evening. I was like, I got a little extra hour here before he gets home from work. I'll just do some cleaning up so that he doesn't have to worry about anything. And I knew you were going to appreciate it, but you really appreciated it.
You're right. Well, it's a whole love language thing where what you do to show love to others is typically what you want done to you.
Yeah.
So sometimes I learned that early on in our marriage when we learned about the love languages. I was like, oh, that's why. Because sometimes I would do something and, you know, be like, why didn't she like that more? She liked it. She was appreciative, but why didn't she over the moon about it? It's like, well, because that's not, you know.
Yeah, the 5 love languages. That's another, that's another fun book.
That's another good
That's
thing.
a good one that helps. What was your first impression? What was my first impression of you?
Well, you said, you've told me a bunch of times. You thought I was nice and
Funny
and yeah.
and good looking. What was your first impression of me? First impression.
First impression. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know? Yeah.
I remember when the time you're talking about, but only
Yeah.
because you brought it up a bunch.
I will tell you something.
Oh boy,
Since
I know where you're going with this. That was an impression. It wasn't the first, but boy, that was an impression. It was a first impression. Like, oh, okay.
So fast forward from when we first met, and you know, we had established our friendship for a while, and you know, the other marriage is done, and I'm sitting here going, wow, he's actually kind of cute. How can I get him to notice me? Right. And so my girlfriends were like, let's just change the way you look a little bit. One of my girlfriends at work, she's like, let's put on something that'll accentuate your figure a little bit more, you know, work out a little bit more and all this. And so I was like, okay. So I went and got some clothes that flattered my figure a little bit more. See, his eyes just went up.
And I noticed that was an impression. That was the first impression in terms of that aspect of our relationship. So
I wore this fitted striped dress.
Yep.
Remember that?
I know very well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think, well, that tells you what kind of first impression.
Still a highlight. Yeah. Turns
Still
out I had a bigger one than I thought.
If we were in a romantic comedy, which actors would play us? That is a very good question. You're more curmudgeon-y, so we got to think of curmudgeon-y type actors.
I was going to say Jim Carrey for me.
Oh, that's good. But people early, when we were first married, you even looked more like Jim Carrey.
Just because people had said that. Yeah. They don't say it anymore because his hair is staying in.
Because his hair is staying in case you didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I often say, if you watch the show Ted Lasso, that I'm more like Keely Jones and you're more like, what was his name?
Roy Kent.
That's it, Roy Kent.
Yeah,
if you watch
that's
that
good.
Show.
Roy Kent and Keely Jones. Those are good looking people too, so I'll take it.
So you can Google it if you haven't heard it, and you should totally watch it if you've never watched it.
Yeah.
I love it. Everybody needs a Ted Lasso in their life. I've said that before on the podcast. What's my go-to guilty pleasure TV show or movie?
Wow. For you?
Yeah.
I'm guessing here because, boy, we do a lot of both. I'm going to say movie, though.
Okay.
You really but am I right?
Yeah.
I am?
Like a movie? Which one?
No, I thought we were selecting TV show or movie. Like if you had to pick.
Oh yeah, I would definitely pick a movie.
Okay, good. There, I was right. All right. So,
gosh, would you pick a TV show or a movie? I almost feel that's equal with you.
I think it is,
but more so with TV. You like series.
I do. So
which is more like watching a movie. Just many of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is your go-to series or movie right now?
Well,
I mean, I know this, but I love
this
share.
show called AP Bio, and it's got a lot of cynical, dark humor in it.
But also, it's super
Dawn
hilarious.
thinks it's funny too, but she can only take it for so long. So I want to binge the snot out of this thing. We are more than halfway done through all the seasons of it.
It is very funny.
And I want to just keep going because it absolutely kills me. We're seeing a lot of good stuff, though. We just started watching this show called Mythic Quest that wasn't even aware of.
So
it's been around for a while. It's very clever. It's very funny. I love it. We're watching.
They're doing such a great job with
that. The Recruit on Netflix is really good that we've been watching. Oh, gosh. Severance, though.
Severance is crazy.
Is the one where that's on Apple TV, and it's coming out once a week at the moment. So it's almost like old school back when we were kids, and you'd wait for your favorite show to come out on Thursdays. And it's been like that for us, and that is just mind blowing. I just love it. It's just got a little bit of everything. So well done. I love that. Yeah, we enjoy. That's the way we unwind at the end of the day before we go to bed. Yeah. That's our story time. Yeah, it is. It is. And we studdle with the puppies. And check out a show for not doing a gig or teaching a class. Yep. Or having a meeting. That's what we're doing. A rapid fire, this or that. All right. I'm going to let you lead that. Okay, good. All right. Okay. Sweet or savory, and I'm going to say you're sweet. Most definitely. Yep. And I'm going to say you're savory. Not even, of course. These are almost too easy. Beach or mountains, and you're going to say beach. Absolutely, and you're going to say beach too. Correct. All right. Yeah. Here's the next one. Do we even need to buy? All right. Stay in or go out, and you are go out. And you are stay in. Boom. Morning person or night owl, and you are night owl. And you are morning person. There we go. You're kind of seeing some of our opposites yin attract. And yang here. Yeah. Ooh, this next one. I know it's comedy, tough. Special, or action movie. I'm going to say comedy special for you. Are we starting to lose her? Oh. We better hurry up. Okay. I'm going to say comedy special for you. Yeah. And I'm going to, because see, you could go either way. Yeah. I'm going to say comedy special for you. Yeah, if pressed, yeah. Okay. Let's get out of here because I think we're about to lose power on the camera. How many minutes do we have? I don't know, but I just got some sort of warning thing on there. Great. So, yeah. Okay. So before you go, we just want to mention if you or someone is in an unsafe relationship or struggling with addiction, please do reach out for help. There's tons of help out there. Can't get through that by yourself. You can't. And we'll include details of some places you can start in the show notes as well. So you're not alone. Just remember that. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, hey, everybody, we hope you have an amazing, blessed Valentine's Day, whether that's showing love and support for your special someone, and that special someone can be you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we have a single comic that has a joke about
also,
dating herself, which is hilarious.
Remember that Saint Valentine is also the patron saint of epileptics, so this day could go a whole different route.
That's great. And also you can enjoy the many non-hiking things to do available to you in the Shenandoah Valley and get some ideas by listening to the Virginia's for Laughers podcast, which you know is a podcast about all things non-hiking in the Shenandoah Valley, where you can create new memories with your loved one or partner or spouse and connect with them, laugh with them, and take a break from your tough stuff. So that's what I would recommend. And I want to thank you, Chris, for joining
Thank you. This has been
me
fun.
today. And sharing. That's really great. It's our first time sharing our 10,000 foot.
Maybe more to come. We might even do a deeper dive. We'll see.
If you want to hear more of the story or just be encouraged, let us know. We'll create more content about that.
That's right. Yeah. We'll even tackle topics if you want. So
absolutely.
Happy to do that.
Absolutely. And so, Laughers, we also want to thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this content, please like, share with a friend and give it a like. Give the Funny Womacks YouTube channel a like. If you're watching it on YouTube, that will really help the podcast grow. We appreciate that. And we're going to continue creating more content that will help you get more out of your Shenandoah Valley experience.
Like and subscribe. And if you're at a friend or family member's house, take their phone, take their TV, and like and subscribe for them. You're not doing anything bad. You're not signing them up for something. You're just helping us and helping them, frankly, because we're going to be in their feed.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a great idea. And also don't forget to get your free audiobook on Audible. Just hit that link in the show notes so that you can grab that. And as an Audible creator,
and you don't have to read.
Nope. You can just listen. And as a creator of Audible, that I need to let you know, I do earn a commission off that, but it does also support this podcast. So by doing that, you will be supporting the podcast while discovering your next favorite listen.
That's right.
And then the last thing is, and lastly, and most importantly, out of all the podcasts you could have listened to, you picked this one, and we think that's pretty darn special, just like you. Until next time, keep smiling. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by the Funny Womacks and Friends. We'll be dropping a new podcast every Wednesday, so check back for another uplifting episode. Come to a f-wahf show or let us bring one to you. To find out more, head to thefunnywomacks.com. Be sure to share this podcast with a friend, and until next time, cheers.